The man walked into an adoption center and saw mutt puppies. He was immediately impressed by a blue bull terrier that showed extreme eagerness and enthusiasm to meet him, and he had chosen that puppy to adopt. Back at home, he presented the puppy to his young daughter, who was very happy to finally have a pet. The dog was named Bull, and he quickly became an important part of the family. 2 years later, while Bull loved his life with his family, his owners were absolutely frustrated with his behavior. He kept humping anything he could find, and his favorite pastime was humping the Nana's legs. Bull was actually in love with the dog next door, Honey. The two dogs had been friends since their childhood, and Honey was also very interested in Bull, but he could not make a move. His high libido was said to create problems, as his actions were considered disgusting, and his active state caused a lot of wreckage in the house. However, Bull did not feel the need to dial his urges down. Bull's best friends, whom he always hung out with during walks at the park, were an intimidating boxer named Rocco, a beagle named Lucky, and a dachshund named Fetch. They had all already been neutered. Rocco did not care much that his testicles had been surgically removed, as he was quite happy and confident about his appearance. Lucky was a bit erratic, particularly with his choice of food. Fetch, however, was said to have an entirely different life because his owner was an influencer who wanted to make him a social media star. On one of their usual morning walks, Bull and his friends noticed a fellow dog named Luther sitting in grief with a cone around his head. When asked, Luther explained that his humans had suddenly started behaving too sweetly, allowing him to do all the things that were normally forbidden, even drinking from the toilet. He discovered that this had been a ploy by the humans before they had him neutered. This story hit Bull emotionally, as he could not imagine life without his testicles. Later that day, Bull noticed he was being treated extremely well at home, and was even allowed to drink toilet water mixed with Kool-Aid. Having learned what these signs meant, he realized they were being nice out of guilt because they were planning to have him neutered as well. When his 3 friends found out about Bull's situation, they all tried to explain that getting neutered was not the end of the world, citing their own personal experiences with the surgery. However, nothing could calm Bull down, as he was very proud that he still had his testicles. Out of disappointment and anger, he ended up hurting his friends by mocking their testicle-less lives and suggesting they knew nothing about love and romance. Refusing to let the humans decide his fate, Bull angrily ran away to the city that night. He was alone at first and enjoyed himself, but then he accidentally got high. While walking through an alleyway, he got into trouble with a group of vicious cats who hated all dogs. Just as Bull was about to be torn apart, Rocco, Lucky, and Fetch barged in and saved him. From that point on, all differences between the 4 dogs were wiped out, and they spent the rest of the night together having fun. The main reason Bull did not want to get neutered was said to be his fear that Honey, the Afghan hound next door, would no longer be his friend, preventing him from ever expressing his feelings or being intimate with her. By pure chance, he saw Honey being taken to a dog show, which made him realize he should confess his feelings before he lost his testicles. He and his friends went to the show where purebred dogs were competing. Honey was among the participants, as was a Borzoi hound named Sterling, who was considered Bull's rival. Sterling did not love Honey but merely wanted to mate with her. When both Honey and Sterling won their respective categories, their owners decided to breed them for the best puppies. In an attempt to help Bull vent his anger and frustration, his friends took him to a pleasure house for dogs. Unbeknownst to them, Honey had seen Bull at the show and, despite having kept her love for him a secret, decided to confess her feelings. She followed him to the pleasure house and intervened just as he was about to begin a lewd act. However, they were all caught by animal control and caged, including Honey. The next day they managed to escape. Bull finally realized he had to address his feelings for Honey and sought her out, only to find her owners had left her alone with Sterling to mate. With his friend's help, Bull intervened in a most preposterous manner, which resulted in Sterling mistakenly mating with him instead without being aware. At that messed up moment, Bull finally confessed his feelings for Honey, admitting he had been in love with her for a long time. After the entire encounter was over, Bull returned home. It turned out that his family had been searching for him desperately since he went missing, as evidenced by missing posters with his face and name drawn on them. Rocco and Fetch mentioned that Bull's owners had been extremely worried and had gone door to door throughout the neighborhood looking for clues. That night, Bull tried to get some sleep, but Honey sneaked in and confessed that she had loved him since they were small. Although Bull found it difficult to believe, it was the truth, and they finally made love throughout the night. The next morning, Bull was taken for his neutering surgery. Despite having nightmares for a few days about his reproductive organs leaving him, he did not actually feel any pain or any difference in his life afterward. Thus, Bull returned to his usual life, and was delighted that Honey had given birth to a litter of puppies that were a mix. He was finally happy to have puppies of his own, and his human family was also happy after his neutering. However, it was Sterling who found himself in a lot of trouble after Honey gave birth to mixed-breed puppies. His owners believed he was no longer virile enough for breeding and decided to have him neutered immediately.